Hey, what's up, everybody? So this is BDF44 coming at you, and I want to talk NBA bubble playoffs. I had a chance to see all of the seeding, with the exception of the Lakers, who haven't had an opponent confirmed just yet. We're gonna wait for Portland and Memphis to duke it out, to see who we play. I'm gonna jump straight into it and just give you guys my prediction on each and every matchup, if I remember them correctly, which I think I do. First, I'll give you the Lakers versus Portland. If that were to take place, I think the Lakers are going to go the distance with Portland. And I trust that the Lakers will find a way. And I know this sounds ridiculous, but the way the two teams have been playing, this is exactly what I mean. We'll find a way to win a Game 7 against Dame's Trailblazers. Dame is going to have to show me that he can knock off LeBron James in the first round of an NBA playoff series. I know he's done it to PG. I know he's done it to Harden. But he's going to have to show me that he can do it to LeBron. That's a different level. It's a very different level. Playoff LeBron is obviously one of the greatest athletes we have ever seen, bar none. I know people have said he's disappeared, this, that, and the third. All of that is true. But when you're talking about the type of intensity that one player brings to an NBA playoff series, you're going to be hard-pressed to find somebody that's more difficult to deal with than LeBron James. So with that being said, we also have a guy by the name of Anthony Davis, who was obviously a first-ballot Hall of Famer, once-in-a-generation talent himself. So everybody's talking about how Portland has their hands full with the Lakers if this series takes place. Lakers have their hands full with Portland, and Portland have their hands full with the Lakers. You know, it's a two-way street. We're gonna have to deal with one another, and we have opposite strengths and opposite weaknesses, and it's gonna make for an intriguing series. I actually hope to see it. If it's the Lakers and Memphis, I think Memphis is somewhat depleted. I don't see them beating Portland in this game, but if they were to find a way to win against Portland, I think the Lakers are gonna make easy work of them. I give them a game. Without JJ. They lose a lot. Now they still have Valanciunas, who's playing some of the best basketball of his life right now, and they have some really, really good young talent, including John Moran, of whom I think is going to be an MVP someday, or at least a candidate of such. And I like Dylan Brooks a whole lot as well. I really, really like the rookie that they picked up, power forward. The guy plays like a freaking guard. He is an extremely intriguing prospect, and I wish his name would pop up in my head right now, but I can see his face. He's there. He's going to be their power forward, and he, without JJ, and I'm telling you, he plays like a guard. You got to love the kid. I think his upside is about as high as any young player in the league right now, honestly. So Memphis's future is going to be bright, regardless of what happens with that game. But if they get us, I give them a game. I give Ja and the boys a game. God, I wish I could think of that young fella's name. I'm so sorry. I just can't. My memory's trash, and it is what it is. But if that's Memphis in 5, Memphis is going to lose in 5. Lakers are going to beat Portland in 7. That's what I see for that particular series. Moving down, staying in the Western Conference, the next matchup I'm looking at is the Utah Jazz versus the Denver Nuggets. And I gotta say, on paper, this seems like a better matchup than I'm expecting it to be. Utah just does not have enough offensive firepower, in my opinion, to match up with Denver right now. I would have loved to have seen this particular series, in regular formatting. Going back and forth between Utah and Denver is just intriguing to me for some reason. I don't know why, but they're very close to one another. They're both in cold cities, and I like the altitude advantage that both teams have at home. I think they would balance each other out. I think it would be a really good series. But being that it's in the bubble, it's just going to be about matchups. Rudy Gobert does present problems for any and all bodies. So you have to consider that when going up against Utah. Their defense is crazy when they have themselves together, anchored by that human being. Donovan Mitchell's a really, really, really great young star. I like him a lot. I don't know if I've watched enough of him to really give you an honest assessment, and so I'm going to have to plead ignorance to a degree. I've watched a lot of him in his rookie year and his second year, but I haven't seen a whole lot of him this year, so I don't know exactly how good or how he's looked all year. But all in all, I just think that Denver just has too many weapons offensively for the Utah Jazz. Porter's playing crazy. He's obviously one of the breakout players in the bubble. You're definitely looking at Jamal Murray, of course, Nikola Jokic, of course. They got guys. I'm not sure if if Brewers, I think it's Brewer, is that his name? I'm not sure if their hurt guys are back. Basically, they have a couple swing guys who are out. I think Gary Harris has been out. I don't know if those guys are coming back for the series or not. But you know, even if they don't, I still got Denver taking that series probably in 5, 6, something like that. I'll just say 6 to make it to just make this make sense. I'll say that Utah will get 2 games out of Denver. Denver in 6. All right, moving on down. The next matchup I'm taking a look at is the Los Angeles Clippers versus the Dallas Mavericks. Now, that series is extremely intriguing to me. In fact, I think that's one of the most well-coached first rounds that I can remember. You just have arguably the two best coaches, with the exception of the great Greg Popovich, and a few other names that come to mind as well. But 2 of the best coaches in the league going head-to-head in Doc Rivers and Rick Carlisle. And I think that Dallas has enough volatile talent, and that's a phrase I like to use, meaning young players that could at any moment give you a lot more than what they've been giving you on a consistent basis, just because of their upside being so high. They may give you a glimpse of who they are, or have a couple of games where they just show you exactly who they're going to be. That's the kind of talent that I see Dallas having on their team. Luka Doncic. If Luka Doncic goes off for historic numbers, will anybody blink? Like, I will not blink if he breaks some type of record somewhere in these playoffs. He's just one of those great type of players. And at any moment, if he's on the floor, he can create problems for anybody and everybody. There's no basketball floor that he's not going to have success on. He's just that great. Porzingis. I think the world of Porzingis. I don't know how he looks again, just like Donovan Mitchell. I don't watch these teams like that this year. So I just have to plead ignorance. But just looking at the teams on paper, I don't think the Dallas Mavericks are going to really be able to keep up with the Clippers if the Clippers can pull it together in terms of their chemistry. Now, the Clippers have chemistry issues. Guys going into the lineup that haven't been in the bubble. Guys have had issues with not wanting to be there. Obviously, the Lou Williams situation. You still have guys who are getting acclimated into playing on the team, and that can create some problems. They would have liked to have run into somebody else than a team this well coached and with that type of talent in the first round. But ultimately, just like the Lakers, if they run into Portland, I do think that they will ultimately overcome anyway. But Dallas can create some issues. I don't know that this goes the distance per se, because if the Clippers buckle down on defense, you got Paul George looking great, you got Kawhi Leonard looking great, so they're not going to let this series go 7. But I can definitely see it going 6. But I can also see scenarios where it goes less, unfortunately, for Dallas. I do not think they'll win the series, but I want to honorably give them 2 games. And that's pushing it, to be honest with you. So, Clippers in 6. For the next series and the last series in the Western Conference, we got the Houston Rockets versus the OKC Thunder. Now, my position on this series has changed a little bit, because when I first saw the matchup, my gut immediately went OKC. And I know that that's the underdog, but I just got through watching OKC beat my Lakers, and they looked really, really good, and they had no Dennis Schroeder. Their bench, in my opinion, is stronger than the Rockets' bench. And because they have Steven Adams, and the Rockets don't have a center at all, that's a series that Steven Adams is going to be a monster on the boards and on putbacks and things of that nature. He's going to eat. And you can't play with a guy like Steven Adams. Even though he's a bit hobbled, he was hobbled a couple weeks ago, he probably still isn't 100%. You can't play with a guy like Steven Adams in the playoffs. Not when you don't have a center to match his intensity. That's going to be a problem for the Rockets. And I can foresee them maybe even losing a game because of that particular issue. Steven Adams is going to be a problem. I love Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the best dressed player in the league by far. Dude is going to turn into a superstar before our eyes soon enough. His trajectory is ceiling. It's completely so high I can't even see it. Like, I really think the world of Shai, and the Clippers are going to dread the day they traded him. They're going to dread it. That's what I have to say about that. I mentioned Dennis Schroeder already. I'm higher on Dennis Schroeder than I've heard a lot of people. I think he's a really, really solid scoring guard. He gives you what you want from a guy who's looking to score the basketball. I love the role that he has behind Chris Paul. He comes in, spark off the bench, Lou Williams type stuff. Great for chemistry. They have a lot of young players on their team. I don't know the names of these guys necessarily. I'm a big supporter of Ferguson, though. I like that kid, and I've seen him go off at any moment. He's a volatile talent. He can go off. And they have a couple guys like that. And they drafted very well, and they have a bunch of picks. So even if they don't do well in these playoffs, their future is bright despite the contract of Chris Paul. Chris Paul has outplayed that contract. Big, huge respect for Chris Paul. I can't tell you how impressive this season has been for him. I think this has been by far his most impressive season in the league. He's had better numbers. Obviously, he's a super duper star, the greatest point guard of his generation, in my opinion. But this has been his most accomplished season, in my opinion. He wasn't even supposed to make the playoffs. His contract's supposed to be something that's just dead in the water. He's supposed to be done pretty much, and none of that has played out like that. He has been an MVP candidate since jump. That team is a certified playoff team that could beat the Rockets, could truly beat the Rockets, and I had them beating the Rockets. But after saying all of that, James Harden, man, James Harden is so great that all that I just said about the Thunder could be erased if he just simply decides that it will be. You understand what I'm saying to you? Like, that's how much willpower I believe he has on the basketball floor at this point in time in his career. If he gets enough help from the Eric Gordons of the world and Ben McLemores of the world, if he gets enough help from those guys, and mind you, I'm not saying Ben McLemore's name in the slightest way. He's coming along. It's taken a very long time, but right now, today, he's the type of player you want on your team. He's hitting his shot. He's been in the league for a while. He's taking care of his body. He no longer has expectations of becoming greater than a role player. And in his role, he's really, really turned into something for the Rockets in that system. He's a problem at this point. I respect it. You got to look at Rivers, at the young Rivers kid. Even though he's not that young, but Doc's son. He is also somebody you have to deal with who has come along, developed well, and is now, today, somebody you have to worry about. So the Rockets have enough guys like that to offset the volatile talent of the Thunder. The only thing that they don't have an answer for is the Thunder size, and the Thunder don't have any answer for James Harden, and I have not even mentioned the great Russell Westbrook just yet. So I think the combination of Russell Westbrook and James Harden and that willpower that they have, coupled with the fact, of course, that this is Russell Westbrook's old team. Now, mind you, of course, this is Chris Paul's old team, the Rockets, but Chris Paul was only there for a couple years. He is Mr. OKC. I don't see him allowing OKC to knock him out of the playoffs in the first round. I just don't see that. That's not happening. So even though I picked the Thunder initially to win the series, I have changed my mind. I'm going Rockets. I'm going Rockets in 6. Westbrook ain't letting the Thunder beat him. Westbrook is not letting the Thunder beat the Rockets in this series. And that is the determining factor for me. It's just not happening. So that's the Western Conference for you. We move on to the Eastern Conference. And the first matchup that I want to talk about in the Eastern Conference is the Orlando Magic and the Milwaukee Bucks. I would like this series a lot better for the Magic if they still had Jonathan Isaac running around healthy, because his length can pose some issues, and couple that with the other players that they have on the team with length, which is a lot of them, you can create some dynamics that could maybe make things uncomfortable for your boy Giannis. And that's really what it's about for the Orlando Magic. You want to make things as uncomfortable for Giannis as humanly possible. I like Orlando. They've been making the playoffs for the last couple of years. It's good to see them there again. But it's going to be very, very difficult for them to offset the greatness of Giannis Antetokounmpo and the coaching of Budenholzer. They have a lot of shooting on that team, a lot more shooting, a lot more scoring than Orlando. And because of it, I don't think Orlando's going to win too much in this series. I may have Orlando getting the game just out of respect for the consecutive years that they've made the playoffs, which is a really, really, really big deal for them. And I really do love their length. I love their length. They have prioritized shot blocking in a way that no other team has, and I really like it. What they're missing right now is a go-to scorer someone who could just put the ball in the hoop at a 30-point clip, like just a really pure score. If they can get a guy like that, they're a different team. But right now they're missing that, and because of it, they're not going to be able to keep up with the Bucks. I got Bucks in 5. The second matchup in the Eastern Conference we're interested in is the Philadelphia 76ers versus the Boston Celtics. The Philadelphia 76ers, I would have them winning this series if they had Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, but those two guys are not there. Philly has a lot of shooting without those two guys. I think it makes for a very difficult way to kind of scheme against them in a way because you don't know who to deal with. Shake Milton's going to have a big role in these playoffs. Obviously, Tobias Harris is going to have a big role in these playoffs. I expect some other guys to step up as well. And I think Philly is going to surprise Boston by maybe getting a game or two out of them, even without Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. Boston is a terrific young team, lacking size, in my opinion. And I think that lack of size is going to play a role in these playoffs for Boston. But you love what Jaylen Brown's bringing to the table. He's turned into a star. Jason Tatum's a star. Kemba Walker is an anchor at the point guard position. And they have enough sturdy pieces. Enes Kanter's pretty solid. You know, they got some sturdy pieces to help them along. But I think Boston really needs to try to find a big guy in the offseason. But for now, I got them winning the series. Philly is just handicapped at this point. So I got Boston winning the series in 5. Maybe 6, but 5 is what I'm going to go with. Celtics in 5. Next matchup we're going to look at in the Eastern Conference is the Brooklyn Nets. Who's Brooklyn playing? This is the series that I forget about. The Eastern Conference is Brooklyn and who's Brooklyn playing? I'll come back to that one. Let's just focus on the Heat in Indiana. I forgot who's Brooklyn is playing. Oh, Toronto. Okay, we'll stay with it. Toronto and Brooklyn. This is going to be a quick, easy series for Toronto. I don't think Brooklyn gets a game. I absolutely love what I see out of Caris LeVert. He is balling. He's a star. He is going to be even better than he is today. And when they get their full spectrum of superstars to go along with this guy, I think they come out of the East next year pretty easily, honestly. I don't. Milwaukee's going to have to move over. Toronto, move over. Brooklyn is coming, but not this year. Right now, Toronto looks great. Absolutely great. And, they don't seem to miss Kawhi Leonard. I know that sounds strange, but they're winning the same games that they probably would have won with him. And they just have a lot of talented guys that understand their role. They have one of the best coaches in all of the league in Nick Nurse. And they've already proven themselves to be champs. They are champions. You have to deal with them. And I don't see anybody on that Brooklyn team. They have a depleted roster right now anyway. That's going to be able to do anything with Toronto. Toronto went 4. If Brooklyn gets a game, it'll be very disappointing for Toronto. Like, if you're a Toronto fan, Brooklyn better not win a single game. That's God's honest truth. And that's with total respect to Caris LeVert. And Spencer Dinwiddie. Because I got a lot of respect for Spencer as well. And Jared Allen. They got a lot of guys I like, but they're just depleted. They're just simply depleted. Not enough talent there. And then last but not least, the most important matchup in all these playoffs, in my opinion, the matchup of the first round, the Indiana Pacers and the Miami Heat. This is what we wanted. This is the series that I wanted. If I wanted 2 series, it was the Clippers and the Lakers. And then when things started to get as they were between these two teams, the Miami Heat and the Indiana Pacers. This is going 7 games. I don't see no way this doesn't go 7 games. These are 2 very, very talented basketball teams who are comparable to one another in terms of value of talent. The Heat have a lot of shooting. The Pacers have a lot of big men, a lot of solid, talented big men, and it's gonna be a war. Bam Adebayo is gonna have his work cut out for him. He's gonna have to really impose his will against the Sabonises and that young guy Batiste. I don't know if I'm saying his name correctly, but he's a nice young defensive center. They got bigs. Obviously, not Evan Turner, but Miles Turner is still on the roster, blocking shots, hitting jumpers. You got to deal with him. Don't sleep on the Pacers in this series. Do not sleep on the Pacers in this series. TJ Warren, he's not going to be as effective in this series. He's not. Jimmy's in his head, and Jimmy's a greater player than him. Jimmy is a better defensive player than T.J. Warren is a consistent offensive player. So I don't expect T.J. Warren to be going for 50 and 40 and all that with Jimmy on his tail, especially with their history. Jimmy's going to impose his will, and it's going to be very difficult. The guy that I'm looking at in this series that I want to see really impose his will on the other side for the Indiana Pacers is Malcolm Brogdon. Malcolm Brogdon, Rookie of the Year 3 years ago. Malcolm Brogdon's going to have to impose his will. He's going to have to be every bit as good as he's been in order for Indiana to get all the way through this series. If not, you're going to have issues with Dragic, Kendrick Nunn, Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson. They just have so much shooting on Miami. Goran Dragic, if I didn't mention him already, they have a lot of shooting. And that can be a good thing, and it can be a bad thing for Miami. If those guys all run cold at the same time, this is going to be a bad series for them. If everybody's hot, they can win this series quickly. So it's really up to Miami's shooters or whether or not they're able to defeat the strengths of the Indiana Pacers, in my opinion. Because those bigs in the Indiana Pacers are definitely going to make it so that you're going to be forced to shoot more than you probably even would be normally. So, in my opinion, this is going to be a fantastic series. I do have it going 7. And honestly, I think I'm leaning toward the Heat winning the series. I think I want the Heat to win the series. But the Pacers are a team that, like I said, it's going 7 in my opinion. And it's going to be a dogfight every night. So this is the series to watch in my opinion. With the playoffs, this is the one. You want to pay attention to all the playoffs, but you definitely want to look at this series in the first round. That concludes what I got, people. Thank you guys for watching this video. Enjoy the NBA playoffs. Stay safe, everybody. My name is BDF, and I'm out.